Welcome back, everybody, and as you can see, we fixed a technical issue, which was Josh's shirt. We've changed that one out, but for some reason the game still isn't starting.
Chips Iron, I think, said he refused to join the lobby if I still had that previous shirt on. It was distracting him. It was dazzling him all the way from the main stage.
Yeah. Why was he stream sniping?
How have they still not been able to qualify if they've been stream sniping the whole time? That's my question.
The million-dollar question, isn't it?
Really
I guess the BlizzCon question, really, in that regard, isn't it? The BlizzCon question.
Not quite the million-dollar question. That would be the owl question, I think.
It really would.
Yeah,
okay.
But
so should we do this next cast for me on Team Denmark? So I'm very biased towards Denmark and you on Sweden because of the flag behind you.
why would you set it up so that I am supporting the team that are the underdogs in this equation? I'm going to cheer on Reinforce no matter what. No, actually, I'm going to be perfectly unbiased and just provide very news-based coverage of what's going to happen in my dry and monotone way.
Let me ask you this then. What are the chances that we get hired as a casting duo ever again after this event?
Probably about 2.
Two what?
Just 2.
2%?
There's 2 of us, so probably about 2.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
It certainly does. So at the moment, they do still have a technical difficulty, so they're still getting the game underway. Yeah. The players are joining the lobby, but we are going to discuss the rest of the group in the meantime, because I want to hear Brent's opinions on Australia, because that is the one team actually that we didn't get to cover, is Team Australia. Like I said, built from a bit of a super team around the Australian region, but they struggled a little bit against Spain and then lost to Denmark and then came out and crushed Sweden. So it's been up and down for them. It
really has. It's been an unusual one. I feel like they were a little bit uncertain moving into the first couple of matches. At least they seemed a bit uncertain in what to run. I mean, CKM as well. I wanna shout out that guy because his fire has been good, but when teams are playing a lot of Sombra, a lot of hit scan against him, he seems to get shut down quite easily. And whenever he switches over to roles like the Genji and other heroes, they don't really tend to have too great of a time in that regard. But another thing that I have been impressed with Team Australia in general is their coaching staff, actually. The guys that are behind the scenes working.
I have a lot of respect for Gunber.
Absolutely.
I think his addition to Team Valiant was absolutely massive. He's done a great job there as an analyst for them. And I think Custer's really good as one of these core players that's able to take on what the coach really wants from the team and then give it to the rest of them.
Just like a charismatic guy in the team that can lead.
Yeah, but it's not just that, I think, as well. I think a lot of these teams really benefit from having somebody that can really remember what the coaches would want them to do at every point. It's like being a bit of the coach's mouth within the game. You know, so for example, guys like Tvik and Reinforce on Team Sweden are like Manitin's mouth in game, I think. Sorry, not Manitin, Mineral, the coach, the Swedish coach Mineral. So you often have a player within the team who is calling and reminding the players of what the coach wanted them to do previously. But I think Denmark as well have done very well without having a big notable coach behind them. I think a lot of the staff behind Denmark will be looked at as well as the players if they end up qualifying for BlizzCon, which they definitely could as a result of this game.
Well, we're going to be heading into Lijiang Tower. Good job there, Josh, and tying that into Denmark towards the end as we're heading into the game as well. Yep, it's finally happening. Lijiang Tower. Going to be the first map, the pre-selected control map that we're going to be heading into, and it's an interesting one at that. You can play a variety of bits and bobs, different compositions, can't you? You know, you can run your tanks, you can run your Winstons, you can run your Sombras.
You certainly can. You can actually run whatever you like on any map. It just changes your chances of winning. I don't know whether you knew that, Brent, but the teams are not tied to running any composition anywhere. But Sweden have massively favored the triple tank, triple support compositions. But this stage here, Night Market, is not as good as something like Control Center to be able to run this comp. Having said that, a lot of teams will still try it, but we'll see what Sweden's idea is, because Denmark have not been running a lot of that. And so far, Sweden's successes recently have been against
other teams that are playing
that kind of comp, whereas Denmark are happy to counter it. So at the moment, Tvik hovering on the Pharah, perhaps anticipate. The Pharah pick is good against the triple tank, triple support. Also going to be decent at what Denmark are running now, the Sombra Tracer. But this Sombra Tracer is going to put a lot of pressure on the Swedish backline of Chips Iron and Luddy, and they haven't been good at keeping those guys alive.
Oh boy, there's those damage boosted rockets straight into the fray. That's an immediate pick straight onto Kellex, and I mean Denmark, they're backing off. They don't want anything to do with it. They're going to wait for Kellex to respawn. and this gives Sweden a very big advantage. And in fact, they're going to be swapping up their composition quite drastically here. Shax going over to McCree, maybe as a way to deal here with Vic on the far.
Not too bad from Denmark because they're able to get back in the fight before the control point even unlocks, and they have now a composition that deals well with what Sweden have. Brigitte to counter Sharp on the Tracer, and they have the McCree to put pressure on Tvik.
The early kill did allow Sweden to get control of the point pretty early on here. Tvik, his rockets are going into thin air. I'm not too sure what's going on there, but looks like Denmark do have an advantage now as they bring down Maniton. Sharp falling as well, and this should be a quick retake now for Denmark. Easily done.
Absolutely, and you got to wonder, are Sweden going to make compositional changes? They certainly could run a triple tank, triple support kind of stuff, but they've not really taken another fight with this composition yet, so maybe they still want to try. Nope, it's going to be the straight swap. As soon as they realize that they're running a counter composition with the Brigitte and the McCree, they're just going to try and roll straight over them. Liddy, now let's see when he chooses to use that the speed boost to engage.
Nerf's moving in. He's got his primal rage as well, so he can stay alive for quite some time. Ends up using it, going to start to disjoint them off, but he's going to be slept up to the side. Very close to coming off the edge there. Precarious indeed, and it seems like Sweden are just edging this one out in their favor as they're picking up a few kills, but Kellex does get the wrestle. Deadeye from Shax, not going to be getting too much value. Still moving forward now with the Transcendence, giving Denmark enough heals to really sort of slam this point home. But Shax, mate, you need to start hitting these shots, Sunshine, and there you go. He's listening to me. I told you, mate, it's not Sweden that are stream sniping, it's Denmark. But clearly, they are going to be starting to win this fight out now. Kellex with the pistol, and they pop in a cap into
What
chips.
is that?
And that is a questionable Graviton Surge, but oh boy, oh yikes.
That is a really bad Graviton Surge, and I think that's been a criticism of Sharp's this entire tournament, actually. Zarya's very good at being able to output damage, but these ultimates have been atrocious from him at times, and that one was really unforgivable. Luddy deliberately didn't use his sound barrier in that engagement so that they could recontest, and unless Sharp's going for some crazy swap here, which it doesn't seem like he is, that Grav was utterly and truly wasted.
Vic now moving over to the Widowmaker as well. Sweden going to be looking to work their way in. They do bring down Fisher. Now the Sandman is going to be used as well by Sweden. They want to try and run this into them. Johnny is used as the air shatter, gets 2 targets down. It's about as good as he's going to get it. And now Sweden have to rotate onto the point. Some of the ultimates being used here by Denmark to see if they can stagger this one out. Nerf using his Primal Rage will bring down Ludi. Denmark going to be looking to try and at least contest this to 99%. They start getting a few more players. They might even be able to turn this one around, but it looks like that's not going to be the case. Still going to be running them on. Ding actually opted to use his Transcendence now. So they do want to contest this, but Dan is going to get de-suited out of his mech. They're going to be lacking a lot of those tank players, but now a lot of ultimates being used. Denmark still trying to really contest this one. Shax moving into the fray, the flashbang in hand, but Johnny finishes them off with the fire strike. Still fight anyone's game right now as these last minute switches coming up from Denmark. They actually turn the fight around.
Huge plays from Denmark, great recontest with the ultimates. They know exactly when a fight is winnable. Sweden apparently have no idea. There were 3 fights there where Sweden certainly could have won but chose not to invest ultimates, then threw an ultimate away, and then even when the engage was good at the beginning there with Reinforce hitting a great Earth Shatter onto 2 players, which they easily mopped up. You should be winning that 6v4 every day of the week,
really
and instead just could not find the players. That's excellent macro play from Denmark, but very, very sloppy from Sweden. And you see the difference between these teams that are fighting at the top of the group right now and teams that are fighting just to stay in contention or have already been eliminated, like Sweden. That's disappointing, but still time for them to come back from it.
Denmark having a little dance party in the spawn just before they go out to beat down Sweden. We'll see what they can do though. Can Sweden come back from it? 1 round up right now for Denmark. Start to roll out with this comp. Sweden opting to go the opposite direction of Denmark, just rotating all the way around with this triple support, triple tank composition. Fisher is going to be making a swap as well. In fact, the entirety of Denmark is going to be making a swap. This is something that you see high-level teams do very often. Danny's going to start rotating around, so he's the only member who's actually stayed on the point. In Sweden, going to take this opportunity to try and play into their spawn right now, straight into them, but they're at a bit of a disadvantage here. Fisher immediately brings down Ludi. That's going to remove a lot of heals from Sweden to Vic, and they're just resetting straight away. So, question marks in the chat, please, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not too sure what the heck's going on.
Yeah, Sweden, well, Denmark go back to spawn because they want to change up their composition, and Sweden are running a composition that requires them to engage. They have to play fast and aggressive with that triple tank, triple support, but there wasn't anyone there. They didn't realize that Danny was on the point, otherwise he would have been a viable target, and instead they chased Denmark back to spawn where they're invincible. So not the greatest decision-making or calling coming out from Sweden so far. They need to get their heads back in the game, and they've changed their compositions up.
Back onto Manhattan, so they're going to see what they can do here. Johnny falling very low. Reinforce ends up going down, and they're going to get the D-suit as well, which means Denmark going to be easily holding on to this point now, currently on 33%. And I mean, Sweden, Josh, I got to ask you, mate, what have they got to turn around here? What are they doing wrong in these team fights to be getting slammed so hard?
Well, I think they've made some big errors in their previous engagements, but they're running a very different composition now. The Sombra and Tracer are going to be able to find targets very easily. Sharp can stay invisible, give information over to Tvik, and then they can take down targets very quickly. So it's all about the passage of information, communicating, and finding those targets. They force out the Transcendence from Ding, and now they can start applying pressure, but Reinforce has taken so much damage early on.
And this is a common problem with Sweden. It seems like it's a bit of a disconnect between the tank line and the back line, and they're really struggling to put in the resources to keep these players up and alive. Still, Ding falling means that Sweden now have an opportunity to go into it with the pulse bomb. Not going to be finding kill. In fact, he's going to go down. They got a nerf just as he was using that primal rage, but I don't think it's going to matter because they're still in control of the point and they have not lost any players whatsoever.
Denmark are doing a great job of being able to rotate ultimates very effectively. When Ding dies, comes back upon Moira, but he basically won that fight with his Transcendence. Nerfed with the primal rage just to ensure that it's there. And now Fissure has this EMP available, which certainly could win the fight for them.
Ooh, only connected onto Chips there. Just going to get booped down, but the translocate comes out from Fissure, so he is alive for the time being. Now Sweden going to try and turn this one. It's going to be even trades, and they managed to flip the point as well. Get that G-suit as well onto Danny, but Shax is on cleanup duty around the point.
Reinforce was
dipping around.
Wasn't able to use his primal rage there, so actually dies with it available, and Denmark are straight back in the fight.
Yeah, and this is going to be a recontest easy for them. They should be able to clean up the last few players here. Denmark got everyone alive.
Dies with sound barrier.
Sound barrier. The cap is going to be flipped over to Denmark. They are in complete control of this match. They've just got to finish off the last few members of Sweden here. It's just going to be a stagger and a stall attempt. But this is realistically heartbreaking, honestly. Martin is going to be switching over to the Hammond, but again, not quite good enough. Denmark, pretty confident, Josh, that they're going to be taking this first map with ease.
You don't think Chips Iron can do the 1v6?
Unfortunately.
No, neither do I. And that is a disappointing one from Sweden, but absolute domination from Denmark. They
Very
just
good.
shut them out completely.
Oh, Kellex, look at this. Just brushing them off, mate. He's brushing them off.
He is, though. They're absolutely crushing them right now. Sweden are making so many mistakes, but those mistakes will only get punished because Denmark recognize them and destroy them. As soon as Sweden have one player that's out of position or a tank that engages a little too early without being there together, they are getting punished incredibly hard. Reinforce is taking a lot of damage at the beginning of his engagements, which you don't want to do as a Winston. You want to keep that health up as much as possible. And Shax was doing a great job alongside Fissure on that Sombra Tracer. They're playing very clinically, and Sweden are making a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, I'm impressed by the decisiveness, I feel like, from not necessarily Sweden, even though they are changing up the compositions, but Denmark in particular. I mean, this is something that I was mentioning halfway through the cast, but that decisiveness to change your composition straight away, sacrifice a couple of seconds, sacrifice the positioning, just because you know that you're going to have the stronger composition to just break it a little bit later. It requires another level of skill.
And there's a lot of strategy and pre-planning that's gone into that kind of stuff, like we saw on Gardens there. And that's probably a result of the staff that's behind them. And as I say, the staff at Denmark, not some well-known OWL analyst like, for example, Mineral or Australia's Gunber. These guys are less well-known. I've been working with European contenders teams, as a lot of the players have been in European contenders, a region that doesn't get as much note, doesn't have as high a skill, potentially. Though the DPS players of Shax and Fissure have both moved over to North American contenders, where they play for Mayhem Academy and GGEA, respectively. But none of Denmark have had success recently this season, which makes their performance as a team together here in the World Cup group stage such a lovely surprise. Yeah, it is Hollywood, as you saw on your screens just a moment ago, and as you can see here, what is that? I'm Rich as the license plate. Would you display that actively on your sports car? You're way more likely to get burgled, aren't you?
I feel like you are. If you're just advertising it, people surely are going to be tracking you down.
It's like writing on your license plate. I have a lot of money in this car, and it's probably not that secure.
It seems like a lovely area, though. I can't imagine there'd be any robberies going on here in Hollywood.
I think it's a studio, Brent. I think it's
Are you sure?
I think it's fake. I don't think it's a real village. Otherwise, there'd be people milling around and living there, wouldn't there? It is a war zone as well.
Sure. What is the lore behind this? Do you know? Do you know your Overwatch lore? Can I test you? Like Doa sometimes comes out with little references, and Monty doesn't know what the heck's going on.
I really no. You absolutely can't, because then I'll look as ignorant about the lore as Monty.
You were amazed there by that little dance fight that was kicking off.
I loved it.
Yeah, you lost your trail of thought. I saw you staring off into the distance.
Alex was conducting.
Denmark versus Sweden. Denmark take map number 1. This is going to be Sweden's map pick of Hollywood. Coming out the gate now, Denmark on the attack and immediately making more changes. Now, Fisher's been prioritizing quite a bit of May actually in this series so far.
Very good against these tanky compositions.
Yeah, it is ideal. We're going to see what else they can do here. Shax just applying a lot of pressure with these rockets from long range. This is the ideal comp that you really want. They got nothing to really deal with him out of the air apart from Manitou, and that's about as much as he can do just there. Thrusting up into the sky, peppering him a little bit, but he's going to be healed up. And now it is the slow siege from Denmark, just taking their time, really just trying to hit a lot of these shots up. There's a beautiful one, quick little smack in the face. Shaq brings him down. There's the follow-up as well. With those 2 picks, they can keep Shax up alive. I'm going to say this is looking very, very good for Denmark right now with that D-Mech on top. Golden stuff.
No other team is playing May as well as Denmark are and as well as Fisher is. He's got great icicle aim and his wall timings have been excellent so far. You saw Reinforce utterly disconnected from the fight in the middle of that. They'd already found a pick onto Tvik, but with 2 players down, Sweden would not be able to recover. And it's very difficult to play aggressively as this triple tank, triple support composition when you've got the rockets flying in from Shax and Fisher warning you off. You have to try and hit the wall.
Straight up aggression coming in from Sweden though. They're not messing around in the slightest. Shax brings himself down, rocket to the face, and they're going to take out Ding as well. The Resurrect is going to be used as well. Space was bought from that South stroke to allow Kelix to get that one off. We're going to see what else they can do now as Sweden. Going to lay down the bubble, giving his team a bit of damage mitigation, but Tvik has been absolutely cut off from the rest of his team. And Denmark, they capitalize, they jump straight onto him. Shax's going to be using that barrage, not getting any value out of it, taken out of the fight for the time being. And now we're going to see what else they can do. Sharp uses the Deadeye, that is a perfect wall. Going to be using the tail end of that Deadeye. Hitting a couple of shots here. In Sweden, they are winning the team fight.
Even if they lose that team fight, they've taken it so early on to where the cart starts moving that it's essentially a free push. They can get back in and win a fight in the streets and still be perfectly fine. So I love how aggressive Sweden are being. Hollywood has always been the kind of map where you can spawn camp at the beginning of point B, and if you're an aggressive, decisive team, you can get so much value out of it. At the end of the day, Overwatch is about playing the clock, and Sweden are doing that perfectly so far. Even if they lose one of these fights, it is not a disaster, and so far they're winning them with style.
Yeah, Primal Rage now going to be committed here by Sweden, just swinging around into the back lines, and kills are going to be found anyway. Fisher falling to that one. They're going to see if they can get a couple more. Nicely done there, Johnny. Finds another one for the rest of his team. And this aggression is exactly like what you were talking about there, Sideshow, with time being a resource that you can really is honestly underrated, I feel like, in Overwatch. People don't really consider time to be a resource in this game, but it's honestly one of the most important ones.
It's the one that wins you in.
Exactly, the amount of team fights you can take in the actual fight itself, but Denmark are looking to see if they can start to take the fight to them. Using that Transcendence early, but they're going to be met head-on sharp. Using the Deadeye, Car's going to be blocking his way. Manitou with the South stroke straight into the back, and Ding falls. This is still looking gorgeous right now for Sweden. They're going to get the Resurrect back up onto him, but it doesn't matter. They're picking off the targets effectively and efficiently. John Wick up in this.
They're so decisive. I love this from Sweden. They know exactly what they're going to do. The communication all seems to be there. They look more confident than they have done in the past. This was what we were expecting when we saw Sweden were going to be playing in the Bangkok World Cup stage. We really haven't seen it so far, but this is beautiful.
Now we'll see what else we can do now. Denmark, we've got a couple of ults now, but it seems like Sweden are going to be taking the initiative. Chip's going to be using that Deadeye. He finds Sharp. That's an entry frag for them. We'll see what else they can do now as they get the D-suit as well. And this is looking much, much better now for Team Denmark. If they can finish off the rest of these targets, they're going to be in a very good scenario indeed. Reinforce will fall. There you have it. Finally, Denmark going to be breaking his hold.
Yeah, the rally absolutely pivotal there from Fisher, and a Deadeye in order to force positioning came out from Shax. But this is not a disaster from Sweden. Yes, they've given up a little bit of position in the street stage, but you can easily reclaim that. And in fact, they've gone back over to triple tank, triple support, because if you can win a fight here just by running over Team Denmark on the ground, you can push straight forward to the next choke. If they win this fight, it's great for Sweden. If they lose it, not so much. This one's a big momentum decider.
I feel like Hollywood's second point, there's a lot of high ground that you can really contest and abuse. You can see that's exactly what Denmark is doing. They're choosing when to engage.
But Sweden are stalling the cart, so at some point Denmark have to come down and block.
We'll see what they can do here. Sweden haven't lost any players just yet, but again, it is just a case of picking and choosing when you want to take the fights out. You're only going to go for the charge there. It doesn't end up connecting onto anything, but Shax is holding onto this Deadeye, now opting to use it. Self-destruct comes out, Shax gets two! The self-destruct though will take his life. Man is going to be trading that one, but not before Shax has set them up for the victory there. There's your win condition. Sweden's still not giving up just yet. Chip's going to start to get pressure into the backline, but there's the peel. A little bit better coming out now from Sweden, starting to turn around these mistakes that we've seen from earlier in the series. Graviton Surge being used by Sharp, only finding Fisher, but they don't even bring him down. In fact, Fisher's going to be returning the favor as he slams Ludi in the face with his little flail, whacking him straight back to the end of the spawn queue. And we're going to see now as well as Shax has actually moved over to the Farah. This fight has still continued even as Shax has just actually respawned, and he is absolutely demolishing them, Josh.
Both of these teams knew how important that fight was. Whoever won it would have so much advantage coming into it. Sweden probably would have been able to get the full hold on point B. Denmark now looking in a great position. So many ultimates were used. Sharp's Graviton again did not get value. That was probably a game changer for Sweden. And Tvik moving over to the McCree, now to try and put some pressure on Shax. But one last fight before checkpoint B is claimed.
Johnny's got to get value out of this Earth Shadow, but it's very difficult against this composition. He's knocked two of them down, but the charge will not connect, and Denmark capitalize instantaneously, picking up multiple kills. Shax's going to be finding the finale on Tvik, and that will be the second checkpoint going the way of Denmark. 1 minute 50 seconds on the clock for them.
But you can see, even with Denmark being pretty dominant in the streets, where they won both of the fights that they had to take, Sweden have knocked all the time off the point, as you're saying, and they have both of their defensive support ultimates available for a fight that's going to happen towards the end. Sharp with another Graviton as well. He's had 2 poor ones so far over the course of this match. We'll see what he can get done with this.
Sweden, again, they're going to be running in hard and fast here. Deadeye going to be used by Tvik, but again, not going to be getting any picks. And Shax actually ended up bringing himself down. I think that was a point-blank rocket. And that's given an opening for Sweden now to just move all the way in. Nerd ended up using his primary rage to try and disconnect them a little bit, but it's going to be wasted. And now Denmark, they're forced to back off, forced to reset.
Chip's Iron was forced to use his Transcendence in the middle of that fight, but reasonably good. They traded it out for a couple of ults on the other side, so they still have Bloody Soundbarrier to keep them available, and can Sharp get some damage done with this grab?
Well, we're going to see Shax taking the initiative anyway. Moves him with a bound, but Chips takes him out, and now Sharp! There's a Graviton Surge for you, Sunshine. Picked up 3 targets, and that will definitely seal the deal for Sweden in that team fight. 37 seconds remaining, and Denmark making some very quick changes, last-minute changes. They need to win this next team fight.
Sound Barrier and a Graviton Surge were used in that fight, but Chip's Iron did so much damage that he's straight back up to another Transcendence, and Reinforce could shut this one all down with a well-timed Earth Shatter. The mind games right now between him and Nerfed.
Moving around the corner, we're going to see a lot of ults being used. Reinforce going to be using the Earth Shatter. Don't know if they connected onto any targets, but they are winning the fight regardless of that, focusing them down effectively. Sharp has got all the energy in the world right now. He's just melting these targets. Denmark are not going to be able to push this into the final checkpoint. It will be brought down in the nick of time. Johnny's going to be charging Shax across the map, but Shax actually turned this fight around. He managed to get a double kill on the point. The question is, can they keep this one going, Josh?
There's only 2 players alive from Denmark here, but Danny's got so much health, and Reinforce is stuck without anybody. Great punch from Tvik, takes out Kellex, but in comes the Transcendence as well. Ding is there, going to provide a bit more healing to the rest of his team, but Sweden are still getting it.
They can't bring down Johnny. He's coming in with the Earth Shatter. He's taken out the players, but now it's Fisher's turn to try and turn this one around. He's moved over to the Tracer. Recall, dodging, juking, trying to keep this timer going. Kellex desperately now on the Lucio trying to stall this one out, but the Graviton Surge will be used just for him, and Sweden will stop them in the nick of time.
And Sweden, you can see why they brought Denmark over to Hollywood here. I think they had a great strategy for it that was refined in their earlier game, I believe. when they went up against Thailand, they ran the same kind of strategy, but with slight differences. And it didn't work quite as well against Thailand. Still came out with the victory. But here against Denmark, that was an excellent showing from Sweden.
Yeah, much better.
Aggressive defense, spawn camping, getting right in their face, using the clock as a resource and ticking it down. So even though they lost quite a number of fights, like a high percentage of fights there for Sweden were actually lost, but it took so long for Denmark to kill them that in the end, that's a better situation for Team Sweden there.
Really
and they should be feeling happy about their defense. They've set themselves up to get right back in and tie the game at the half.
We'll see what Denmark are actually capable of. I like that a lot of the mistakes or a lot of the complaints that we were having and the larger community was having about Sweden's play, it has been looking a little bit progressively better as well.
I mean it didn't on Lijiang, but it certainly
has. It definitely
here.
didn't on Lijiang, but now it is being cleaned up. Josh, you can't take this away from me, okay? All right, don't ruin this point as well.
I just love to be a hype killer, Brent.
You do, don't you? You do. But no, I mean, we were arguing, you know, we were saying about Sharps' as Graviton surges haven't been exactly great, but towards the tail end of those team fights there, they were imperative for them winning it.
And I think you got to say, he does actually output a huge amount of damage.
Oh, an incredible amount of damage.
Sharp's mechanical skills on Zarya are excellent, and that's kind of what you would expect from a DPS player that makes the switch over.
Yeah.
Great tracking, great use of the bubbles, able to stay on high energy all the time. Actually does a good job of being able to protect the rest of his team with the bubbles at times. Provides some utility over to reinforce. It's just these ultimates that have been wasted in a number of situations, but you're right, he did get much more value out of it on that defense.
Well, now Denmark, it's their turn to defend. Going to be opting for the Sombra Genji composition. Sweden are going to be scouting a little bit, just waiting in spawn. You can see right now, they're going to see if they need to make any switches whatsoever. It seems like they are committing after Tvik gives the go-ahead on the Sombra. He's just moving around. Shax is also behind them, you'll notice as well. He's going to be calling out a lot of this information before translocating back. And we'll see if Denmark can defend this now. Sweden making the appropriate switches again. Tvik over to the Brigitte, most likely to be dealing with Shax on the Sombra.
Sweden just going for the triple tank, triple support that worked relatively well for them in the past. Definitely something they favored. Taking it all the way around the side, so going for a flanking maneuver that may catch people behind, but at the very least will give them great positioning in Cafe. Now they have the high ground to work with, and Denmark have been displaced.
Jumping straight onto them, they've just blown Nerfed up. He's gone, he's out of the fight now. Hack can make out for Sharp. He's on 50% energy, but it doesn't matter. Sweden seems to be just slightly edging this fight out in their favor right now off the back of their superior focus fire. And this is the power of this composition, really. Just one big mass of players, one big mass of heroes running down these players one at a time, efficiently killing them. And that's essentially the way they won that one. I feel like Denmark had a bit of a misplay there in terms of their positioning. Nerf got focused down very quickly.
He certainly did. You would have liked to see them take the high ground on the opposite side of Cafe, and I also would have liked to see them begin with a Doomfist when you know that Sweden loved the triple tank, triple support so much. Something like a Doomfist Sombra is a bit better at being able to deal with Sweden there. Fischer now has a blade, and they have the Pharah to be able to do a lot of damage and distraction to Team Sweden. But if they don't displace them from the cart, the street stage could go very quickly in Sweden's favor.
Let's see what they can do here. We see Sharp has actually made the switch over to McCree now in answer to Shax. Now we're going to see the South Destruct being used by Sweden.
Great pick!
Helix, that's exactly what they needed. You take the Mercy out, Shax is a lot less damaging now. He doesn't have that damage boost available to him. And in fact, he's going to be eating a ton of damage. Fischer with the blade, but he gets no value. Shut down by the flashbang there. Stun combo from Tvik. Still easy pickings here for Sweden, and they're going to be happily pushing this cart one all the way through this Streets phase.
And the Streets phase is so momentum-based. I was talking about it when Sweden were on the defense. Now they're on the offense. They've won a really pivotal fight, and Denmark can't really reclaim as much positioning because Sweden are running a composition that all stays on the ground and will just run the supports over if the tanks take the high ground. So with Denmark up top, Ding is pretty vulnerable on the floor alongside Vision.
And they're pushing this cart as freely as they possibly can here. A lot of ultimates coming up online for them. Deadeye's going to be used now by Sharp. South Destruct sent into the fray. Will they be able to find any of them? Not quite. Still see what they can do here. And was that the bubble that blocked the Earth Shatter? I believe it was. Johnny getting go value out of it, but he goes for the charge, and he connects it onto Nerf. Mid-air going to be deleting a big chunk of his damage. And Sweden are just playing the full-on aggressive game, I should say. And they're going to be, again, winning this team fight out. seems like Denmark just cannot catch a break. They seem to be struggling to really get any value out of this team composition.
They definitely are, and I think this is time for swaps. Team Denmark have to have a really aggressive...
So close to the
Can they
point
even
now.
get there, actually? Denmark died so close to checkpoint B that Sweden, if they push up like this and stop
Bloody
the...
hell, Johnny! Whoa, my goodness!
But this is perfect. The cart keeps rolling, and Denmark are going to be hard-pressed to even make it there in time. The pressure forward from the Swedish tanks means they have to trickle in one at a time from Denmark.
Straight from behind, Reinforce going for the charge. The stab strike by Manitou brings down one. Teammates stunning, and now Denmark forced to use the Transcendence. Can they keep this one going? No. Sweden are showing no signs of slowing down. The Coalescence going to be topping them up with the heals, dealing a lot of this damage. And Devik just swinging away sharp with the Deadeye. And that will be that. Sweden going to be taking a map away from Denmark here, tying it up at the half.
And they look so much more coordinated, Bren, than we saw on Lijiang and that we've seen from them in a lot of the tournament. Honestly, that was good triple tank, triple support play. And, you know, some people might not believe it, but there is a difference between mediocre triple tank, triple support play and good ones. And Sweden there were very coordinated. They knew which fights they had to win. They invested ultimates properly. They really focused on targets and forced positioning from Denmark. It's all about that, right? In that final fight, you know the supports have to stay on the floor with the Brigitte, but the Winston and the Mercy have gone up top. So in order to force everybody down onto the low ground, they play super aggressive in at the beginning, use a Deadeye, use an Earth Shatter to make sure that resources have to be committed from Denmark. So I think this is really strong play coming out from Sweden to be able to tie it up, but it's so map dependent.
It really
you can't run triple tank, triple support everywhere. So Denmark now with the map pick can try and push things like vastly away from Sweden's comfort zone, because it does seem to be about the only composition they can play well.
I mean, they had some moments in Hollywood on the second point, but with that being said, we do have a series on our hands now, all tied up. We're going to go to a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to have the rest of this series cut fairly shortly.
The Overwatch World Cup is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's fastest network ever. And by Omened by HP, the official PC of the Overwatch World Cup.
Hey, Doa, thanks for the ride.
No problem.
I've got something you've got to hear. This car has a pretty good sound system, right?
Yeah, the best.
Excellent. Because we're going to need to hear the whole range to really appreciate this. It's a thing of beauty. You ready?
I am as ready as I'll ever be.
This is Monte Cristo, and today we're going to take a look at a strategic breakdown of the latest match between the Los Angeles Gladiators and the Seoul Dynasty.
Of all
right
the
off the bat, we're going to get a couple of environmental kills. But
Oh, I hear it.
at the
I
response as
feel
well
like I've
from
heard
the
this one
side
before.
of the
It's
Seoul
like
Dynasty. Visual
honey
goes in,
dripping
you
into your
notice that on
ears,
the
all of the
opposite side,
treble and the
Seoul will
bass
bring in
working
Miro
together
and
in
Munchkin
perfect
to
harmony.
pressure the
Oh,
support
it's a
players
thing of beauty.
from
It's
the
like an
Gladiators.
Ancient
Quickly,
Norse
Big
deity
Goose will be the
decided
first
to
one to
open
fall
his
on the
mouth and
You just don't appreciate art. That's it. That is definitely it.
Shamelessly original, the Toyota CHR. Toyota, let's go places.
Welcome back, everybody, to the second half of Denmark versus Sweden. Battle for the Scandies. And Josh is not assisting me in this at all. Can you please just give me something to work with here? Thank you.
If I had, you know, a Viking helmet or something, then maybe I would. Or if I could grow a beard, maybe I would have
Sure.
in the halftime break.
I've seen you try and grow a beard. Don't do
good.
it again, please.
It's not good.
It's filthy.
It's almost as good as yours.
Okay, yeah, I
Yours is
can't come
terrible
back
as well.
from that one. Mine is also terrible. But we've got a game on our hands.
We certainly do, and that has big implications actually for Denmark's ability to qualify for BlizzCon, because now that they have lost one map, the highest amount of map wins that they can get to is 13. If they win this series, they will get to 13 map wins overall, and their fate is not in their own hands.
Really
because they didn't get the 4-0, it makes it more likely that China and Australia will be the teams to qualify. Of course, China plays Australia next in what will be a huge matchup for the group, but Denmark will be watching that one without any power in their hands. All they have to do now is win this game. Nothing else matters as far as they're concerned. It's all down to China v Australia, but they have to deliver on the next two maps, Anubis and whatever the escort map is going to be.
Yeah, well, it is going to be Anubis, and an interesting one of that. This is going to be, of course, Denmark's map pick, as they lost the previous one. And again, this is a map where you don't see a lot of triple tank, triple support compositions.
I mean,
you can run it.
You certainly can run it, yeah. It's not like Volskaya, where that does seem to just be the best composition to run. And I think it's interesting that none of the teams in the group stage have chosen to take us to Horizon Lunar Colony, which has had some recent changes, so perhaps teams are not as familiar with it. We've seen a lot of Anubis this Bangkok stage, so teams really know how their opponents are going to play on it, what compositions they're going to use, and this favors the more prepared team overall, I think, and the team that can play a range of compositions, so no wonder that Denmark has taken them here.
Can't wait to see Reinforce's Symmetra coming out, you know.
He's famous for it. I mean, Thailand ran it earlier. Thailand ran it against them.
They got rolled.
That's true, but it did look cool.
They did not. It was a very cool strategy. I was speaking to Jake actually about Junkrat. Shocker there, isn't it? You know, shocker. Jake and Junkrat.
So the only hero?
Possibly. I don't want to throw too much shade at him. I know he can't hear us in the green room, but he was saying to me how a lot of teams, they don't actually realize the meta when it comes to placing traps, where you're supposed to place your trap a little bit further behind, so it launches them into your trap. We're going to see if they can actually get any value out of this. The Venom Mine does get triggered in the end. Shaq's going to be able to see just about where, I believe that was Sharp, hiding around the corner.
Yep, and for the aim of the game for Sweden is to get Sharp and Tvik into position before the tanks of Sweden engage. So this is how you counter this Orisa Junkrat defense with the Mercy. So you need to get your divers in position around this side, distract Shax before they come in, and now they engage.
Launch straight into the fray, onto the high ground. But Johnny is trapped up, caught in the Junkrat trap. Not ideal. Sweden going to have to reset this one. Sleep onto Kellex, so he's going to be sleeping on the job. But I know Sweden, they're going to be trying it, they were trying to set up a bit of a dive attempt as well. A couple of their players just sort of hiding in the nooks and crannies here of Anubis. As you can see, Tvik just sneakily walking around.
And Sharp is behind them as well, so they've got their DPS players in position, but they've now been seen, so they need their tanks to engage quickly. Tvik onto the lower of the two high grounds as his tanks go at top, but Sharp with the pick on the Kellex, that's enormous.
That's exactly what you need when you bring down that Mercy. It's ideal. Tvik going to be just about escaping on 23 HP there. Johnny sleeping up top, going to be leaping away, still alive. Danny not managing to bring him down. In fact, now he's going to start using the heals. It's going to be a nice and easy cleanup here for Sweden. Good initiation, good engage.
Surprisingly well coordinated from Sweden, actually, but, which is better than what we've seen from them in the previous matches. Even when I compliment them, I throw a bit of shade,
man.
But I'm interested to know how Kellex side, because he's actually been caught out quite a bit in this match so far. He has been the first pick in a number of situations where you wouldn't expect it.
Well, this is going to be imperative now that Tvik gets value out of this one, because currently Denmark have no defensive support ults in the slightest. Might be able to bash him, might be able to pack him up, but here we have it. Shark going to be initiating with DMP. Here comes the blade, but the slave! Oh my goodness, good night, sweet prince. Ding going to be happy with that one, and they take him out. Ding's built up the nano boost, and now Sweden, you just got to get out of there. You got to take your losses, you know, just reset back out of the fight. That was beautiful though by Ding.
It was, but of all the things that Sharp is trying to get in the EMP, the Ana's abilities are one of the most important, and Ding was just hiding behind a pillar, really nice, able to avoid the line of sight that is required to hack with the EMP, and Sharp didn't get the value out of it that he needed. That combination is so good normally. EMP into Nanoblade, but this could be huge as well. Kellex hacked, manages to get back up onto the high ground, even without his abilities available. Tvik instead has made the move over to the Reaper, so much more of a straightforward approach.
Yeah, they've been really liking this Reaper pick on this last point of Anubis at least, but Nerf's going to be the recipient of the nano boost, just kind of push Sweden away from the point for the time being. He's going to back off the rest of him. He's got that armor on top of him, and now it's time for Sweden to engage this one in. Nerf gets absolutely deleted there by Tvik, with a half of that sleep dart as well from Chips. Now we're going to try and take this fight. Nano is going to be used onto them. Tvik going to be seeing if he can hit any of these shots down, trying to chunk down a couple of these players. Now here comes the Denmark straight into the fray, but he's only fouled the one kill. Point still not being capped up, and now it's Denmark's turn to reinitiate in here. In the meantime, Sweden are finding a few picks into the back lines. The supports of Denmark are being pressured down. We're going to see that soundbar now being used by Sweden as they look to really sort of tail in this fight and turn it into their favor. Kellex falling is really ideal for them, and Tvik still alive, pounding in the damage with the Hellfire shotguns.
Danny's trying to pick on a reinforced zone, and with Chips down, that so much of the healing disappeared. Things were looking so good from Sweden, but Denmark kept the point contested the entire time. And although Sweden got all the picks in the world, all the kills you could possibly want, they did not secure even one tick there. They really did win the fight for a long time, but couldn't clear bodies off the point. They did a great job at splitting Denmark so that there was 2 supports on one side and 4 on the other side, but they couldn't get the picks on the guys that were contesting the point. They just dived a little too greedily into either side.
A little bit too greedily, a little bit too deep.
Just like the dwarves.
Just like the dwarves and the Lord of the Rings. Thank you, Josh. Glad we're on the same wavelength. But now Sweden, they've opted for this triple tank, triple support that they're so comfortable with. We'll see what they can do. Slamming themselves into the fight, into the side of Team Denmark. But Nerf, he's got that nano boost, and he is absolutely melting them with that Tesla cannon. Primal Rage in hand as well, which means that he can really disrupt the back line whenever he chooses to. Holding a bit weak there, pinned up, but he's still being healed. And Denmark, they don't even need to use it. They are finding these picks regardless of what's happening.
They certainly are, and Luddy's already disengaged. Goes back to pick up Chips. They're both going to have their ultimates available, and now Sweden, they've gone off the Reaper. They switched back to this triple tank, triple support. But Denmark are applying so much pressure in the choke point that Sweden had to use a lot of their really important abilities, use their resources at the choke instead of being able to save them for when the fight happened on the point. It looks like it's going to be used aggressively here.
They could go very aggressive. In fact, the entirety of Denmark is playing hyper-aggressive into them. The hack is not going to be able to get off there by Shax. He's looking for it. Unfortunately, not able to do it, but still Denmark looking like they might want to play this one. No, the rotation back onto the point. Now Sweden going to be using their rally prematurely just to build up that armor before they choose to re-engage into this one. And now it's goal time. Straight into them for Fischer. He's going to get that nano boost. Barraged up. Defense Matrix is going to be keeping him nice and safe, tucked away from a lot of that damage. He's going to be pumping it into them right now. And Denmark are finding all the picks straight off the back of that one. Something like it's not able to be turned around by Sweden, but going to do a good job of trying it at least. Sharp's still alive. They can keep him up. Not quite. Could have potentially used that Graviton Surge to turn this one down, but I think, in my educated opinion, Josh, this is another reset.
It certainly is another reset. I don't know how you quite figured that one out so early. But again, this is resource management. Because they applied so much pressure early on to Sweden, Manitin had used almost all of his defense matrix, being able to usher his team around the left-hand side. That means that when Fischer used his barrage, there was nothing to block it other than the shield coming out from Reinforce and Tvik. And those shields got melted, and then they did a lot of damage. Removed all of the armor that Tvik had spent ages building up. These dives, this constant aggressive pressure from Denmark has to be dealt with. They need to pressure people away. They maybe need a composition switch, because at the moment there's no pressure on Fischer. He can do whatever he wants, and they have to use abilities to be able to stop him. So now Tvik over on the McCree. I think this is a reasonable choice, even though it does make their composition overall a little weaker. It's a direct, it directly puts pressure on Fischer and forces him to drop back a little bit so that the rest of Sweden can enter the choke point more easily.
Not just Fischer, but also Shax as well. If he clutches a flashbang onto him, and to me, he hits his shot. That is exactly what he was looking for there. Takes out Fischer, forces out the Resurrect. That's 30 seconds cooldown now. Graviton Surge from on high. I mean, that is not ideal. You don't want to be seeing that happen.
Champ, again, using a Graviton Surge that, yes, it catches people, but who can possibly follow up? You've got a composition that excels on sticking to the ground. Reinforce can't do any damage there. Sharp really can't do any damage there. Maniton, none of the Team Sweden can follow up on a Graviton that is just been attached to the Empire State Building.
Last ditch effort. 20 seconds, Josh. Do or die time. EMP in hand. Shax's going to be getting the hack onto Ludi, which means no longer able to really contest with the rest of his team. You can see ults being used now, though, by the rest of Denmark. EMP's laid out, but it seems like it is going entirely in the way of Denmark. Finding so many picks here. Fischer not even falling. Probably going to get that one as well. There you go. Tvik's fallen, and that is a lovely hold by Denmark. They're playing some lovely Overwatch, very aggressive, taking a proactive approach, not really letting Sweden take the point, you know, or any positioning in the slightest.
Not at all. And they've abused the fact that Sweden only really feel comfortable on these triple tank, triple support compositions. It's not the greatest on Anubis. There's no way of being able to deal with these forwardly holding aggressive defenses. Instead, if you ran something like Genji Sombra or Genji Doomfist, these kind of more mobile compositions that can contest the high ground, force people away, and then have big ultimates like the Nanoblade and EMP, that could have worked for them. And instead, they go back to their default, play the triple tank, triple support, and Denmark crushed them. You saw Ludi at the end there, hacked up, so he can't use his sound barrier, which was the most important ultimate that Sweden had, then EMP'd, so that he couldn't use his sound barrier, and then killed. I mean, the poor guy just got bullied. He's only young. Give him a break,
he's a young
then.
lad, please.
Give him a break.
Cyberbullying fined.
But this was a great map choice, I think, overall from Denmark. They look much more comfortable than Sweden do. And you can see the difference between when Sweden are comfortable and when these triple tank, triple support compositions are able to work well for them, and here, and on Lijiang, where they're not.
Yeah, well, we're going to be seeing the new and improved Symmetra just shortly before Tvik switches off. They're just going to be using the teleporter to get up to that high ground. In the past, back in my day, Josh, you had to use a May Wall for that.
Back in my day.
Back in my day.
I remember when you couldn't even get up to the high ground.
It was hard, you know? You can't coordinate that in ranked. People don't even know where to stand. You have to, like, walk in each other's hitboxes. Very difficult.
And now, with the new and improved Symmetra, which Thailand tried to run, if you're a fan of Symmetra, go back and watch that VOD. Yeah. If you're a fan of Team Sweden, go back and watch that VOD as well. If you're a fan of Carnage, continue to watch this.
There you go. We'll see what they can do now as Denmark are on the attack. They got that high ground sorted. Again, these are risk compositions, and Sweden going to be looking to put a stop to whatever Denmark are running, any tomfoolery. See, they are actually running a Widowmaker. Ding's going to be trying to win this 1v1, but Sharp is tucked away behind this Orisa shield, so he's going to have a hard job of really achieving much, but the real power in this comp is the fact that they've got these mobile heroes just taking positioning.
That's true. Denmark running the triple support, so the triple DPS, sorry. Absolutely demolished Tvik. Kellex is the only healer. That's the weak point for Denmark, but now that there's no pressure on Ding, he's got sightlines all the way in as well. Maniton does well to demech Danny, take out Fischer, so they may have been able to stop this. And now they've realized that Kellex is the only healer. They take him out. Ding has not found any picks so far. In fact, dies the Sharp, and Sweden have dealt with this one well, despite a well-executed initiation from the red and white.
Tasty little initiation there coming out from Sweden, being able to salvage that operation. Fortunately forced up the high ground now, so they have to play a little bit closer, but Denmark will be getting their respawn soon, and Ding has switched over to Diana now, so he's not going to be running the Widowmaker. Sweden have also got a couple of ultimates of their own.
We certainly do. We'll see.
Oh, that's nice.
That is absolute destruction.
Jacob,
you can play this Junkrat very aggressive. EQO, Profit, these are the two best Junkrats for my money in the world at the moment. or were at the point of the Overwatch League. And they both play a much more aggressive style than a lot of other Junkrats do, and you can get big value out of it. Here comes Denmark again with a Genji Tracer.
Into the backline, Twix sends out the mine, brings down Fisher, and again, these picks have been crucial for Denmark to really, or for Sweden, I should say, to really get this defense going.
Sharp knows exactly where you are.
He does indeed. Twix just waiting as well for the recall. Intelligent plays all around.
That's a very optimistic pulse bomb that Shax uses there as well. I wonder if they're going to make
switch?
Make a change. At that point, you just make a switch out of embarrassment, maybe. No, he's going to stay on it. The pulse bomb, not the most effective ultimate in the world to break the Swedish defense. It's all about the positioning and where Fisher and Shax come from. But I'm really not sure why Shax isn't on Sombra, because the EMP is so much more effective as an ultimate. You can get in much more easily.
Well, Blade being used now by Denmark. This is their last ditch ever, but Ludi brings him down. He's out of the fight now. This is looking excellent for Team Sweden. A minute 20 seconds on the clock. They should easily be winning the rest of this team fight out. Even with a tie, I don't think he even really needs to use it. They can just focus down the rest of these players. And there you go, Bob's your uncle. They're going to be holding back onto the high ground here. Sweden are in a very, very good position right now. They've got Zavic's tire to really stall this one out, a nano boost which they can now use on to reinforce once he gets back into the fight. That is the only downside, is that they lost their Orisa, they didn't have a Resurrect available, which means Johnny's going to be late getting back into this fight.
It looks like Denmark gave up on their VOD review session of Anubis before getting to the offense. They're just running down the middle every single time. This time, there's no Orisa. Reinforcers had the nano boost as well, and Sharp gets the initial pick.
Well, we're going to see what else he can do. Zavic got no value out of his own ultimate. To see a couple of trades going their way, but it doesn't even matter because they seem to be winning this fight out regardless. Fisher ends up going down. They do get the Resurrect onto Nerf, which means they brought their main tank back up, but it's too little, too late because Sweden are winning this fight out in an overwhelming fashion. Shax is just meeting his maker. Josh, your mind is being blown. What are we witnessing here? 20 seconds remaining, and Denmark just seem to be absolutely falling to pieces.
You can't keep pushing the same way every time, and they shouldn't have been running the Genji Tracer to begin with. Teams that are the best at Anubis attack have to set up their positioning before they dive, and instead Denmark are just running to the point like they want to take it through sheer force of will. They're getting destroyed.
It has to be a big blade now from Fisher. 57 HP, but he gets moved back, and the mine around the corner. I don't believe what I've just seen. Oh my goodness. Sweden are taking Denmark the distance. Oh boy.
Sweden know what they're doing on Anubis 8-point defense, it must be said.
Yes.
It was a good defense from Sweden. They got value out of the Junkrat. Sharp was hitting his shots on the Widowmaker. But there is a well-known way of breaking that defensive composition. And I'll tell you something for free, Brian. It's not just by running down the middle with Genji Tracer every single time.
No consultant fees for that one.
No, absolutely not. But I don't really understand what happened there from Denmark. I do believe that was an incredibly winnable map for them with how good they were in the point D defense, and they really should have had a better attack on point A. You can't be getting full held in those situations, and you can't just be running the same thing again and again, butting your heads against a brick wall.
Definition of insanity.
It
really is. You don't know that reference. You don't know.
No, I do know the reference. I just don't think it's true.
Minimal reference game. This guy is actually terrible to cast with. You come out with some sayings, and it's just lost on you.
I'm not sure you know any other sayings.
No, I probably don't, honestly. I'm not going to lie. But what does this do now for Denmark and their chances now because of qualifying for BlizzCon? Because now they've lost the second map to a team that, realistically, we were saying coming into this, that Sweden are the underdog.
They certainly
and now,
will.
you know, they're currently losing. They're one man down.
If Denmark lose this, it looks like they're out because they theoretically, I think, still could make it. I'm not 100% sure if they lose very closely. But Denmark, they needed to win this game.
Yeah.
So they can theoretically still make it if they lose 2-3, but it's so unlikely. Denmark really should have been trying to win this game. It could have been a 4-0 for them. Australia 4-0'd Sweden. Denmark were looking really good in all of those games. So I think this was a very winnable series for Denmark. It still is, but at the moment they're not performing like they'd want to.
This is going to make it nice and easy because it's Denmark's map pick, and now they're going to Gibraltar, a map where you really cannot run these triple tank, triple support compositions. Again, you're taking away the comfort picks from Sweden. If Denmark were to do it, if they were to come back and win this one, or even just bring it to the map 5, you know, this is where it begins, on Gibraltar itself. So they're making the appropriate map picks, but yeah, it's a big question mark in the chat, really, as to what Denmark's game plan was on that previous one. Let's see if they can turn it around, though.
This again is another map where, like you're saying, the triple tank, triple support is not particularly viable. And so we'll see something interesting coming out from Sweden. We'll see how well they can play some different compositions that have, for example, Reinforced playing the Genji. No, that isn't.
Why is Johnny so much further back in his camera as well?
He's got very long arms.
He is.
That's
He's
the
a
problem.
he's a large lad.
Reinforce is like he took a normal-sized human being and stretched him out like he was made of toffee.
He is actually grossly huge.
He is, and a lot of the other players on Sweden, surprisingly for a Scandinavian country, are quite short. Fix a little guy.
Yeah, he is. Well, we're not gonna talk about that, Josh. We've already done enough cyberbullying on this cast.
What
We
are you
can't be
talking
doing
about?
more. All right. I am questioning though. What is his positioning right now? Not in game, but just like what? How is he managing this?
I'm not quite sure.
Like, why is he so far back?
I think it might
He's
just
miles back. He's in China.
I don't think he is in China. He's in Thailand, Brent. We're all in Thailand.
Are we?
That's
Okay.
you're having one of your moments again. Denmark on the defense at the moment are running this classic Widowmaker with the Brigitte. So they're expecting more of a dive comp to come out from Sweden, and instead they are wrong.
Sweden. Okay. Interesting. Double shields. Sharp on the Roadhog. All right. Okay.
I think Sweden are essentially saying, come and dive us on the cart. We dare you.
Yeah, they really are.
We have so many shields. Sharp's going to do a lot of damage to you. They're going to have to find either great engages onto Chipsine and Ludi, or change their composition. But Denmark at the moment seem to be retreating
very far back
and trying to come up with a plan.
Well, they switched Fisher over to the junk right now to try and break these shields. They recognize they need a bit of spam damage, but is it going to be enough right now? Sweden still slamming this one forward, and they're focusing down the targets. Sweden having an absolute field day with this one. They switch Shax over to the far as well, but Kellex gets brought down right in the nick of time. Sweden are having a field day once again. I'm going to come out with the same line twice in a row because people don't really listen to the cast anyway. But they are doing it.
Speak over on the Orisa, and I know they'll be happy to play this one. Reinforced for a long time has wanted to put Svig over on a tank hero as the flex DPS so that they can play these triple tank compositions or quad tank as they're playing at the moment. But it's a very different quad tank to the one that we're expecting. Normally quad tank is super mobile. This one is just a stationary position. Sweden are playing defense right now. They're saying, come and attack the payload and we will defend it.
The issue is, though, not really much to deal with Shax here, especially when he's being pocketed and he's got a bar. Now we can see the coalescence being used by Chips. Going to see if he can start to pressure down a few of these plays. Manus going to be contesting the high ground. Kellex goes down again. Very big ball up, but that's going to be the hook miss, which does not matter. Supercharged up Sharp with the right clicks, brings him down. But still, Denmark having a decent attempt at trying to win this one out. They are getting a couple of picks here and there and everywhere. Sharp, though, slept up anti-nade, which means he is once again going to be meeting his maker. So Denmark, they get a defense.
They get a defense, and now what does Sweden do? Because you really can't approach the cart with an Orisa and a Reinhardt, I think. Are they really going to attempt to? No, they're making full swaps. So it's going to be Widowmaker Tracer kind of dive composition coming out from Team Sweden. And this is where Sweden may struggle because Denmark have now set up a defense. Shax is going back to the spawn, switching away from these spammy heroes that they used to break that interesting composition that Sweden began with. And to be fair, it got them a lot of time. And now it comes down to the Widow battle and how cleanly Sweden can engage with Tvik and Reinforce.
Sweden are fast enough. They can take advantage of the fact that it might be a 5v6 while Shax is switching. But where is the peel? Nobody is in the back line for Sweden right now. Finally, they turn around, and there you go. We're turning around, baby. Okay, I'm feeling it. All right, Sweden. They're finally learning from their mistakes. Chip's staying alive, which means they're setting themselves up in a decent position now to take this next team fight. Just pressing them forward a little bit. Sharp on the Widowmaker today. Oh my goodness, that's not ideal, Sunshine. Okay, Johnny will clean up after your mistakes, don't you worry. But still, going to be moving forward, leaps into the fight. Manhattan going to get the D-Mech though, but now the Nano Boost. Oh, goodness me! That's a baby diva. That's not good. And I believe this needs to be reset, but it's a scrappy one, Josh. I can't really tell.
Sharp's also going to pick onto Kellex here, so even though Sweden haven't had the best fight, if they dodge this tire, they can come back in. Reinforce goes down before the Primal Rage was activated. This Nano Boost, if they get value out of it, should stop the push. Should be a disengage from Sweden. But they got a lot of value there where they probably shouldn't.
Okay, all right. Yeah, they forced out a couple of the ultimates. The Nano Boost was being used by Ding there. And Shax, my goodness, mate. Okay, someone's had their Weetabix this morning. There's a reference that only UK people will understand.
That's true. I tried to explain to somebody in the US what Weetabix was, and it just ended up sounding gross. Just like a burger you make of ground up wheat.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not very good, really.
No, it's not. It's not. I do like to eat it, though.
There you go.
Gives you brain power.
Some niche British reference, cereal references.
Oh, what time is it in the UK right now? Is it like 4 a.m.?
Probably.
There's a reference for all 2 of you that are watching this right now.
Great
Beautiful
stick
stick by Tavik, and they brought Kelix down as well a little bit earlier. This is wonderful for Sweden right now. Denmark got to try and pressure and take as much time off this card as humanly possible. Doesn't look like it's going to be doable, though. That is some great maneuvers there by Sweden to try and win that fight out.
And strangely, it's been Denmark with all the pressure on their backline recently. You would normally expect it to be Sweden. They haven't been so great at protecting Chips, Iron and Ludi throughout the entirety of this tournament. But we saw earlier when you were calling for the peel, it did actually arrive coming out from Manitin and Tvik. And Denmark, a lot of this pressure has been on Kelix to the point where he can't really heal people, can't get in the right positions. He's been limited somewhat here. I feel like that's one of the reasons that Sweden are able to get back into this. But with their Widowmaker down, that's going to call a small reset, a little disengage as they just keep the cart rolling, but can't take any aggressive positions.
They did get a resurrect, which means they can take the fight once again. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Manitin in the back. There's the double kill with a South Strike. That probably shouldn't be happening, but it seems like Sweden are doing it. Danny's going to get demeked. Another 1 team fight for Sweden, and Josh, I mean, they are showing no signs of slowing down in the slightest.
This is a great offense from Sweden. They've got all the ultimates they need to be able to close this one out as well. Tvik does have the recall available as well. Oh, really dancing with death, but chooses to use the Harmony Orb to keep him alive instead. Nerf comes out with the Primal Rage, but Sweden have got one of their own and a Transcendent, so if they can just melt Nerfs here, which they certainly seem to be doing, they're in a decent position.
All right, it's going to mean that Reinforced though is the first one to go down. Tvik forced to use that recall. No kills really going the way of Sweden right now. They're struggling to find any openings into this fight. Maybe another Manitin bomb, not quite. Not really getting the maximum value they were looking for here. They need to start winning these Widowmaker duels now. Sharp needs to start hitting these shots, and Shax has been getting the better of them when it comes to it. But we'll see what they can do, and again, it seems like they are going to be losing this fight.
Just as Ludi uses the Valkyrie, Chips Iron gets headshot as well.
Ooh, okay, all right.
With a pulse bomb just as the rest of his team resets.
I don't know, mate.
Maybe making changes there. It seems like that might be a composition change, because otherwise that pulse bomb utterly useless. What I disliked about Sweden's engagement when they had Reinforced's Primal Rage and Chips Iron's Transcendence is that they didn't play aggressive enough. If you play very aggressive with the Primal Rage and use the Trance to keep your own backline alive, that creates so much space for Sharp to get up top and to be able to free farm these targets. So now they've gone over to the double sniper. That's even more important. The tank line from Sweden must make space.
He messed up that Sonic Arrow there, but we'll see if he can get any of these shots done. Tanks contesting the high ground, and there you go, finally. Sharp opens it up with a shot onto Shax. They get the kills to us as well. They got to commit a resurrect onto at least one of these players here. Keller's going to be taking a fight to Vic, trying to win this 1v1. Trust me, Vic, mate, I feel you, mate. It's hard to hit those Valkyrie Mercies. They're like mops. You can't get them out your room, you can't get them out your game, but we'll see as Sharp continues to hit these shots straight in the heads. Still going to be finding them, getting the kills, getting the damage in. Tavik is building up this Dragon Strike. Sharp hits another shot onto Kelix. Sweden might just be doing this one now. They're going to try and salvage it. Denmark with the South-Destruct will bring down Chips, but is it enough? I don't think so. They've got nothing to contest this backline. Nurse going to try his best. He does take out Ludi, but not before going down himself. Still, an opening now sideshow for Sweden.
A Dragon Strike has come through as well, splitting the team in half. But with Shax finding Sharp and then another pick on the Tvik, he has just 1v2'd their double sniper composition and won the fight for Denmark there. Even so, the spawns were coming in. And with 7 seconds left, I'm not sure anyone's even going to be able to touch the point. Sweden tried, they had a good attempt at the end. Tvik didn't hit enough shots, honestly, to be able to make that one viable. But still a fairly successful offense for Team Sweden. Very winnable still. They could lock up the series with a good defense.
Tvik trying to start a fire at his computer. Not successful. Thankfully, the fire warden is on site. He's going to be stopping him, but...
I'd love to see Tvik get sprayed with a fire extinguisher for trying to warm up his hands. Just the Fire Warden's a big Denmark fan. CO2 foam all in the face.
Okay. I was like,
so that was how he was able to do it.
We really want to play this replay of him missing a shot, but no, there you go. He did turn up in the end. Not bad.
That was how Shax was able to completely stop the fight there in the final moments with a really nice flank. Doesn't happen as often with Sombra in the game because she can scout everywhere whilst remaining invisible.
Yeah.
So the Widowmakers are much less likely to go for those aggressive plays. But of course, when you're playing into double sniper, that's not really an option. And Shax certainly pays off that more high risk, high reward flank that he.
I love to play Widowmaker like that. You know, I'll save you from the tail end of that.
You keep feeding over and over again though.
No, I hit my shots, pal. Trust me.
I've never seen you hit a shot.
Yes, you have. Multiple times. We've queued together. The only reason you're staying in Diamond is because of me.
Yeah, otherwise I'd be in Grandmaster.
All right, okay. Twitch.tv/sideshow if you want to know the truth. Okay.
The truth will out. This is potential disaster here, though, for Denmark. If they lose this series, it's going to be heartbreaking. They were so close. They looked so dominant. Had a really close series against China. They looked like one of the best teams in the group. And to go home like this would be certainly a heartbreaker because a 3-1 is a disaster for them in terms of their qualification prospects for BlizzCon. So they've really got to bring it on this offense, and they're starting out with the Brigitte Widowmaker, which they chose to run on the defense and had to quickly swap away from. But Shax can get a lot done with this Widow if he gets in the right positions,
playing
as we've seen
very
before.
well on this Widowmaker. Really, really impressed by him, and doing the business here as we see. He can hit any shot, just has to duck his head up in the nick of time really there. Sharp's going to be taking it off shortly, but we'll see now if he's trying to win out this Widowmaker 1v1. Taking a very aggressive positions right round the corner. That's all you need. He gets the body shot though as well onto Ludi, but the resurrection will be committed anyway. Now Shax's going to be going for round number 2 here. Will he win it out in the end? Shoulder peeking, body blocked by his teammate. And if this was me in ranked, you know, I wouldn't be screaming because I'm PMA.
I don't believe that for a second. Battle through the forklift though, and both of these Widowmakers in great positions where their Mercy can come in for a res, but of course on cooldown for a little bit longer.
Beautiful, okay. And they're setting up these kills. Any picks you can get right now. Okay, all right. Shax's trying to prove me wrong. Tasty business. Widowmakers winning this out. And now Kellick's going to be using his Resurrect onto Fisher to bring him back up. Denmark, they seem like they are winning this one. They're going to get the Resurrect back on the Sharp, and how much does one man really do? Especially being run down like that, very low sliver of HP, and Nerf is easily able to just zap the rest of Sweden into submission.
Pretty decent, patient play coming out from both teams there, but it was certainly Shax who was winning the better end of the Widowmaker duel. Perhaps when Sharp initially got the pick onto Fisher, that should have instigated a fight. They've only just got their cooldown back off Resurrect. They certainly could have engaged a little more aggressively, Sweden. They needed whatever pick they could, and now they've swapped pick over to the Genji. But it's all about positioning once you get to this hangar stage. Momentum is so important because there's a big high ground in the middle, and Shax again delivering with these headshots.
Yeah, he is really just slamming this one home right now for Denmark. This is what you need. You need these high momentum picks to change the pace of the game a little bit. Tvix made a switch over to Genji to try and have one more option of dealing with them, but infrared sight for both these teams, I believe. Now Tvix coming from behind. Shax's going to be healed back up. Can Tvix get this kill? Yes, he can. Joker to the head will take him out, but it doesn't matter regardless because Denmark going to be using a lot of their tangles as the Primal Raid to clean this one up. Nerf having an absolute field day. One of these guys that we've talked about and who's really stepped up in this World Cup has been nerfed. A lot of players underestimating him, and now he's showing up.
Definitely so. Luddy got picked by a self-destruct in the middle of that, just as Chipsign popped his Transcendence as well. So disaster for the backline from Sweden. Danny with a great timing on his self-destruct. Knew that players would be coming forward when the Transcendence was committed, and Luddy got caught out. Luddy had actually thought about switching over to Lucio there for a little while and has gone back over to the Mercy, able to damage boost Sharp. Putting all the eggs in the Sharp basket right now.
Still, Sharp needs to be able to hit these shots right now.
Don't put your eggs in Sharp baskets, by the way. That will just leave you broken eggs.
That will leave you broken eggs. Good advice, Josh. You're always full of little nuggets of information like that. Well done.
Safety advice.
Well, we'll see. Now Denmark going to be running themselves in here. Fisher's using that rally. Self-destruct to the bite. Shax goes down. It's going to be the 1-for-1 trade, though. in the end, and the Resurrects are also going to be used. So 6 players up for both these teams now. And Vic, he has a blade. He's waiting for the shield blast. Will he opt to use it? Not quite. He's holding on to it. Now is the time to go, though, apparently. Deflect! Straight into the 1/2/3/4. So Vic picks up a whole slew of kills to the rest of his team. Tasty stuff indeed.
What an amazing Genji play coming out from Tvik. He's been so hit or miss for honestly the past couple of months and certainly this tournament, but when he's on fire, he is on fire, and skills like that cannot be denied. Great use of the Dragon Blade there, and that's bought enough time for the Transcendence and the Primal Rage for Sweden. They're in a decent position, but there's so much time on the clock. They did not have a good point A or B.
There is a lot of time. There's almost 4 minutes for Denmark to only cap this up to a short distance down the road. Can Sweden defend this one? Or will Denmark help their chances for qualifying for BlizzCon? Sharp forced to use the grapple the way Ludi goes down. That is huge. One less healer now for Sweden. They're still going to be seeing if they can bring this one in. We're going to see the Valkyrie used by Kelix. Both the support ults used by Denmark to try and defend this one, but they seem to be winning the fight out. Denmark are desperate to try and take this one to a map 5 right now. Nerf using his Primal Rage to just keep them locked away in the spawn. Manatee batters him back, using the sound destruct for brilliant bubble placements coming out by Nerf once again. Blocks all the damage, and there you go. Denmark are desperately trying to take it to a map 5, and they do it.
They certainly do. Great offense coming out from Denmark. A guy that we haven't talked about too much, Danny. Just amazing self-destructs there. We already talked about the one in the hangar that completely destroyed Luddy just as Chips used his Transcendence. Well, he does it again. Danny threw in a really well-placed self-destruct just in those final moments, and it not only forced out the Transcendence from Chips Iron, who would have died otherwise, but it killed Luddy as well.
Yeah.
So just neutralizing both supports with one bomb, that's massive plays coming out from Danny, and plays like that will win you maps.
I also like the way that Denmark in particular have been using a lot of these self-destructs. It's something that you see a lot of Overwatch League teams where they use the self-destruct, send it in, buy space to get Resurrects off as well.
Sure.
This is something that Kelix has been doing quite often, I've noticed as well, just to really buy them a lot of space. Kelix, I mean, despite the fact that he has been dying a lot in this series, it feels like, he has been getting picked off maybe unnecessarily at times. I feel like this World Cup stage he has been having a very good performance.
He certainly has.
Really showing why he is an Owl caliber player.
Yes, I think he was one of the best Mercies in the Overwatch League. He did end up dying in weird positions when he played for the Boston Uprising, but that's because of the way their team was structured. There's such an aggressive team that he was left without too much peel for him, and he just had a lot of jobs to be able to do. He had to go in aggressively with the Genji when he was there, had to save his Zenyatta in the backlines, but mechanically and the way that he thinks about the game, I think Kelix is a very, very good Mercy. One of the best in the world, and I think part of what you get when you have Overwatch League players paired with very strong mechanical players from contenders is that guys like Kelix can come into Team Denmark and tell them little intricacies of how to help him benefit, how he can help them benefit. It should be what you're getting from Sweden as well, but it doesn't seem like it at the moment. Maybe there's a well, there certainly is. There is a massive knowledge difference, actually, between the guys at the bottom of OWL and the guys at the top of OWL. Like, Team Spain was saying this as well. When they had Neptuno helping them at the beginning of their preparation, they said, taught him a huge amount. Neptuno, a really good head for the game. Obviously didn't play for Team Spain this time around in the World Cup, has done in the past, and they really benefited from the information that they were able to gather there. So I think credit to Kelix as well as the coaching staff behind Denmark for a lot of these adjustments and team play that you wouldn't expect to see from a bunch of guys who haven't been performing that well in contenders.
Well, we're moving over to Nepal now. This is the final map of the series, and this has really gone the distance. I mean, coming into this match, I personally was expecting Denmark to take it in quite a dominating fashion, given what we've seen of Sweden in the past. I am pleasantly surprised that they've been managing to turn it around, despite the fact that Denmark may have been making a few mistakes here and there on these previous maps, on Hollywood, on Anubis. Still, I'm not going to take anything away from Sweden. They have been stepping up.
Yes, I think Li Jiang was massive mistakes by Sweden. Then Hollywood was great play by Sweden. And then Anubis was horrible mistakes by Denmark. And then, so far we've had an even series with a couple of maps that where teams dropped the ball. But when we get to maps that are really good for both of these teams, we're seeing quite a high level of Overwatch. I have a feeling that Nepal will be good for both of these teams, actually. On this map, on Village, we've seen a really cool niche strategy from Fisher using the Mei, and Sweden are very comfortable here as well with their triple tank, triple support. In terms of how these compositions clash together, I would give the advantage to the team running the Mei. I think Fischer is going to be able to do a lot here.
See, if I was Sweden right now as well, though, I'd recognize that, you know, Fischer's been prioritizing the Mei quite a lot. Why not put Devik on the fire a little bit, you know, have a bit of more
Certainly
spam.
could work.
But instead, they're going to be opting to just stick with the triple support, triple tank, Denmark, a little bit different, a little bit of a twist on it. Like we said, Fischer on the Mei, very powerful on Village. You can use that ice wall to block off these exits, as you can see to the left of the point here. Very powerful composition indeed. And Denmark, they're immediately jumping onto the point. So they've got the positioning. Now the ice will comes up, but all of Sweden jump onto it at the exact same time. That is how you negate it, but it doesn't matter anyway because Denmark have found a pick. Shax brings down to Vic. The charge comes out from them. Another ice wall as well. Will they be able to block out the rest of Team Sweden? They are finding the picks just rolling in for them right now, and Denmark happily able to cap this one.
Really nice engagement from Sweden, though, as you were saying. Luddy uses his speed boost,
Pressure.
and they all get through the wall at the same time. But even then, they're locked in a very small room. They can't back off at all if they've taken too much damage, and Denmark capitalized to perfection. So now Sweden have to keep executing the same thing. They have to play super aggressive.
Oh.
Nice bait of the ice wall. Fischer's not going to have that one available for another couple of seconds, 5 seconds before he has it again.
Does have the Blizzard though. Is he going to be using it? Now we see the ultimate start to be used. Blizzard into the backline. Earthshatter comes down by Reinforce, but he only gets the one target down on the ground. And now they're all going to start to fall as well, as all those ultimates start to do the work. And again, Denmark holds strong.
They certainly do. It required Graviton coming out from Shax and the Blizzard from Fischer. But Sweden, I think, at some point will probably have to make changes to their composition. The way that they're running it at the moment is not too bad. They're not making major mistakes. But the Mei is so difficult to play around. This ice wall, the Blizzard.
No.
Actually great. Got boosted up by the Mei wall instead. So Sweden's still able to get through the choke. But it doesn't matter when you aim icicles like that. Chip Cyan takes one to the eyeball.
They're being completely blocked out here, and Johnny is caught out as well. Sweden just getting absolutely melted, much like the icicles from Fischer, if you pardon the pun. But that actually didn't make any sense. I'm not going to lie, I won't try and defend that one. That literally made 0 sense.
You are not pardoned. You will be tried, you will be prosecuted.
Not forgiven for that one. Well, we'll see if Denmark are going to be able to take this one overwhelmingly.
Sweden have some big ultimates. They're going to start with the rally, probably use the sound barrier in this fight as well, and see what value they can get out of the grab. See if Sharp can redeem himself a little bit with these Gravitons. They've been hit or miss, sometimes a lot of miss.
Earthshatter on Nerf. Can he get any value out of it? Moving around the corners, lays it down. Only partially blocked, but the self-destruct in the corner will not find the value. Sharp uses Graviton Surge, but there was no follow-up. But it seems like now Sweden are able to turn this one around. To cluster on the fight. Reinforce cleans up nicely, which means that they are going to be able to recap this point up. So 99% still for Denmark, but Sweden finally able to just work their way onto the point.
Was looking a little dangerous for a moment. Sharp threw in his grab and got a lot of players in it. Great Graviton from Sharp. At that point, Maniton throws out his self-destruct, and the idea is the Reinforce needs to charge through Nerfed and remove the Reinhardt shield. That way, the self-destruct can blow up everyone in the Graviton. Bigger bang combo is what we call it. But Reinforce was too slow with his charge, and it was through sheer force of will and a poor Graviton coming out from Shax that Sweden ended up winning.
So weak already though. Sweden still going to be trying to take this fight now. Swinging around, Reinforce so close to this Earthshatter. We'll see if he can build it up. Now we can see now the Coalescence. Ding just keeping his team back alive. Earthshatter used there by Nerf, which doesn't connect, but Johnny's going to be using his in return. And he does get the targets down on the ground. Nerf falls down, Blizzard used by Fischer here, along with the sound barrier. Denmark trying to turn this one for them. They are getting a pick or two, but unfortunately the stain of Sweden too much for them. Sharp gets a lovely Graviton surge at the tail end of that fight to pick up 3 targets, which means again, Sweden holding on.
This has been a great round from Sharp so far. Every Graviton with big value. He's putting out a huge amount of damage too. Only 2 players got caught in that Blizzard. It may still have been enough to turn it if Sharp hadn't had such a good ultimate. So well played by him, certainly redeeming himself, certainly when it matters as well in this final map.
Denmark's turn. Once again, they've only got the 1 ultimate to use the self-destruct on Danny. I want to see how they end up using this one. They're going to be taking the speed boost once again. Now they're going to be initiating in with it, seeing if they can take the fight. The ice wall blocks it off in the nick of time, but no casualties just yet. Sharp with the right clicks, 100 energy to his name. He is melting these targets.
Denmark cannot find a way in. Now Manatee's turn to strike back. The bomb not going to be finding anything as well. Still, now we're going to see Coalescence being used by both these teams. Earthshatter by Nerf, no value from that one, but Sharp now going to be opting to use his Graviton Surge. The fight is being turned in their way, reinforced with another Fatty Shatty, bringing 2 targets down onto the ground. And this looks like Sweden, by sheer force of will, are able to take this first round here on the ball.
Great play from Sweden to take the first stage. They looked so comfortable with this triple tank, triple support.
Johnny's gonna break that desk.
Great Earthshatters as well, though. You smacked that desk, Reinforce, because he got some great ultimates out. He outplayed Nerfed in a lot of those situations on the Rhine v Rhine battle. Nerfed is no stranger to this hero, and Sharp by far outplayed Shaxx in the Zarya battle, outputting huge amounts of damage as we've come to expect, but stepping up his Graviton game massively. And that ended up being what won it for them. As soon as Sweden got one fight win, they chained them all together. Denmark could not dislodge them from the point. In theory, you can get huge value out of the Mei, but they kept juking and dodging those ice walls, baiting them out, playing around them, making sure they spread out when a blizzard was available, and now they're going to run it again. The triple tank, triple support coming out from Sweden against a Brigitte and a Soldier from Denmark. Not particularly meta from Denmark.
Yeah, and they have actually recognized this. They're going to move all the way back to spawn again. Something that Denmark are quite comfortable doing. They're going to completely change up their composition. And Sweden, they're taking the aggression to them. They're all hiding now in the lower left area.
But Danny spotted them. Danny is right above them and knows where they are. I think he's heard the sound cues because it looks like...
They might have. Now they're going to start the speed boost into the point. They've recognized now that they're not really going to be able to get maximum value against the Fire Mercy. The point unlocks now. Sweden, they do cap it up. It's ideal for them. The question is, though, can Sweden get any picks now, especially when Shaxx is going to be pressuring them down with the rockets from above? We'll soon see. Concussion Blast going to be pushing 1 or 2 players forward, but still, these constant peppering of rockets going to be doing a lot of damage now to this Sweden composition, but they do have to sustain. They can't quite bring him down, though, and Shaxx already built up this barrage. Now the Coalescence is going to be used to try and pressure him out of the air. Telex goes down, and Sweden somehow hold on.
Fischer didn't get enough value there out of the Doomfist pit. It can be super effective against what Sweden are running, but you have to be escorted into position, and a lot of the time you need the Sombra to be able to tell you which targets are vulnerable, how to be able to get on them. At the moment, not everybody's able to feed him information in the same way.
Oh, look at this now, straight into them. They're not messing around.
They know Fischer's a threat and they take him down instantly. He's been the first pick in both of these fights.
Oh, Shaxx using his bars to try and turn it around. You're getting a lot of damage on him. He's trying to keep Sharp alive. He's on 100 energy. Has the Graviton Surge. Please give him some healing. Stunned up. Shaxx falling low. He's caught in the Graviton Surge. Another great one coming out by Sharp once again to take him out. But Fischer now back in the fight. Denmark going to try and turn it with their Primal Rage. Nerf knocking these players back. Just trying to discombobulate them a little bit. See if they can get them out of the fight. Self-destruct now also being used by both these teams, but it seems like Sweden are the only ones to get anything from it, and they're still winning the fights, Josh. 76%, it's only going to go higher here. Sweden not losing any players, if any at all, and they got ultimates as well.
All of these engages have not worked out from Denmark, and Sweden are in a great position. It can be 2-0 in this final map, and Denmark's dreams of BlizzCon could slip away from them. Their chances are already out of their hands. Shaxx dies first, and it's 93%. This was the final fight.
They gotta do this now, but Denmark are crumbling. They've got players on the point, but it's not good enough. They found another one, Johnny, with a charge across the map. Earthshatter for good measure. It's overtime, baby, and Denmark will not be going to BlizzCon. Sweden take the final map, and it goes the distance. And you can see how pleased they are that they ended on a high note.
Fantastic play from Sweden. I think they've redeemed themselves a little bit with those final maps. It looked terrible when they began on Lijiang, but smiles on their faces despite Sweden not going to BlizzCon, as you were saying. Denmark, though, the only way I think that they can still qualify is if Australia get 4-0'd in their final match against China.
It's going to be hard.
Very, very difficult. It's all out of their hands. I would say that they did the best they possibly could, but they were hoping for a 4-0 here. And with how Sweden had been playing earlier, perhaps that should have been what we expected. But instead, a tight 2-3 loss for Denmark, despite looking coordinated and decisive in their previous games. They were not able to bring it today. The Battle of the Vikings goes quite firmly in Sweden's favor.
I wouldn't say firmly, mate. Went to map 5.
That map 5, though, was decisive.
Okay.
Denmark couldn't get back into it, right?
I'll give you that, mate.
As soon as Sweden took control of the point, they 100-0'd. It was only Denmark at the beginning that were able to get on control.
Really,
as soon as that triple tank, triple support gets in position, Sweden know how to play around it, and Denmark didn't have an answer. So great play from Sweden, and Denmark, to their credit, tried to map pick so that they could push them out of their comfort zone. But at the end of the day, that mess up on Anubis, that point A flop is flump, flip, flop. Flop may have been the word I was looking for, but flump works as well.
Yeah.
They'll be kicking themselves. I think if they look back over that VOD, Anubis is where they'll think it all went downhill, because that was big mistakes coming out from them.
I mean, my question now as well is, where was this team Sweden earlier in the tournament?
Well, this is the pressure game. I think this is what it is.
It keeps happening, right?
You mentioned it at the beginning. Once you're officially out of a tournament, once you can no longer reach your goals and there's no pressure on you, these guys do seem to perform better.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
No,
that means when it matters, when there's something on the line, there's something mental, some communication issues, some mental crumbling that seems to be letting them down.
Yeah.
We know these guys in previous teams have been capable of top performances, but for so long now, we have not seen it. Sweden are no longer a power region in Overwatch. I love to kill the hype, Brent. I'm sorry, they've just won a match. But
yeah, shut it down. Stop talking, because they got an interview on the floor. Mika's down there with Johnny, and I'm sure they're happy, unlike this sod.
What's up, guys? I am here with the one and only Reinforced, but hold on, I need a little help for this interview. All right, there we go. I am now standing on a box and can interview you. The crowd is going crazy. You have officially won the Battle of the Scandinavias, which means that you are the top Viking. So how do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, I mean, we didn't qualify, so it feels like I'm part of an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, really. Because, I applied for the World Cup, but we didn't make it, so. But at the end of the day, when we didn't qualify, we knew that we were just had to have fun with it. This is probably my last event. I won't get another chance, Like, I won't be part of OWL, nobody will pick me up. So this was my last event, and I wanted to end it on a high note and be happy and, be excited, and that's what we showed versus Denmark today, that even though we're out, we still want to fight, and we never give up, so.
Well, if I had an Overwatch team, I would hire you for it, just so you know. But like you said, you may not have made it to BlizzCon, but do you feel like you guys played your best? Because like you said, you went out there and you won against Denmark, so you did play well. Do you feel that?
I mean, at times we did play really well, yeah. I think that, honestly, Gibraltar was one of our worst maps, but we had that composition with the Orisa Reinhardt, so we love that. But at times it felt really good, like Hollywood, we played amazingly. We held the spawn doors and we had great ultimate rotations. But then versus Australia, we really just messed it up, and we lacked some kind of leadership, and I feel very guilty and responsible for that, because I feel like I could have been there for the team when we had a lot of doubt, can we beat Australia and what so. So versus Spain, it was really easy because, I mean, I was popping off and, we had a good time and we were excited, but versus Australia and China, we didn't really have that. So I'm a bit sad that these guys won't be able to be at BlizzCon. I mean, I'll probably be there because I'm an analyst, but the rest of the guys, they really do deserve to be there, and I'm really sad that they won't be able to show it this year, that they are really fantastic players, despite, failing here.
Well, I think that you did show that they are fantastic players, as we've seen them battle it out today. I am proud of Sweden. I know that you are proud of Sweden, and you can hang your head high, which isn't that hard because you are incredibly tall. So thank you so much for being here to talk to us, and we are going to throw it back to Brandon's Sideshow to break down what we just saw.
Thank you very much, Mika. That was a nice interview, wasn't it?
It certainly was. I think Reinforce, may have made sure that he's the only Swede that made it to BlizzCon.
that interview at the end.
That was
I
amazing.
guess I'm going to BlizzCon because I'm an analyst.
Yeah. Where was LOL session?
Enough of that. That's controversial. Anyway. We do have a nice little T-Mobile fan poll coming out, or fan pulse, I should say. I will get this sponsor segment right at some point. But here we have it. I mean, it is getting intense. I agree with you there, Stockish.
Yep.
It's been a good one. It's really shaping up quite nicely, especially after Sweden have got that win.
I agree. The three-way battle has been really interesting between the top three teams that we have here at the moment, China, Australia and Denmark. It's now looking very, very grim for Denmark. The only way that they can qualify is a 4-0 blowout with China beating
Still
Australia.
doable.
I think it's
I
still
mean, it's still
doable.
happening.
They won the head-to-head. That's the only reason that Denmark is staying in, is that they won the head-to-head against Australia. But the fact that we didn't know who would be able to qualify at the beginning, looking at this group, and we still didn't know who was really the favorites or the best teams at the end of day 2, and now at the beginning of day 3, we've been surprised again.
Oh my goodness! I think I agree with this one. It was absolutely bonkers. Josh has got some different opinions.
No,
mainly,
it was
very
bonkers.
negative.
It was bonkers because I don't know.
Always negative.
Don't know why Denmark hadn't
Always
ever
negative.
reviewed Anubis Point A before. That's what.
It's pretty hard when there's like 16 maps at the board.
It absolutely is.
You know?
Yes, if we're being serious about it, part of the Overwatch World Cup is showcasing all the amazing maps that the teams have to play, and that does put a lot of pressure on the teams because they have to think about all of the different assault maps that are available, and there are a lot of them. And so if you haven't worked through every specific strategy with a team that's only had 1 or 2 months to play together, then there are going to be these holes in how you take certain fights and how you work. And at that point, it's about the team that has the most preparation and the team that's had the best coaching and the strategies and analysis.
Okay, Brett. All right, pal. I know Braincast ain't gonna make fun of Sideshow Gaming's shirt when I'm out here dressed like your grandmother's couch. Mate, your grandmother's very fashionable. I will tell you
I
that.
don't think that's
Look at
true.
this shirt. This is straight fire, mate.
It's not.
Floral patterns all the way. I'm
Yeah,
a big fan of it.
you
What
got-
are you? This is boring.
No.
Boring maneuvers,
I got
like
a nice-
boring material.
Got a
What
nice
is that?
blue shirt and you're dressed like a flower garden.
You fashion out of the inside of your car. Like what's this?
It's just a
This is
normal
lovely.
blue shirt.
This is brilliant. I'd wear this out all
It
the
is
time. I
brilliant.
do. It's my
It's blinded
personal.
me.
It's my personal shirt, pal. Please don't bully me online. No cyberbullying, please.
You can send all of your terrible tweets to @Braincasts. Please do. He reads them all, which is
I
not
do.
good for his mental
yeah,
health,
I
I'm
read
sure.
every single one of them. Yeah, it's worrying.
But we got some highlights coming up of the game as well with Denmark, Sweden. It was an exciting one that I think was defined really. There were massive differences map to map. Like Reinforce was saying, that I think Sweden are a very inconsistent team that realized they had to play for fun in the final moments, but Lijiang was not a good start for them. They made some horrible mistakes on Lijiang,
They really
actually.
did.
And I thought that that was just going to be the beginning of the end for Sweden, but they certainly recovered and played amazingly on Hollywood. So a very weird first half there where Sweden underperformed massively, then overperformed massively.
It was confusing, wasn't it? And we got to see a big range of different play styles coming out from both these teams. And again, that is big. Like, I tell you what, Reinforce, he had a couple of large shatters this game.
How would you rate his performance overall? Because something we haven't talked about as much with Team Sweden is the fact that Reinforce used to be a former pro player, used to play with a lot of these guys, did not make it into the Overwatch League as a player, and instead worked as an analyst. And so this for him was his kind of final hurrah, was him getting to showcase that he does still have the skills, or at least did have the skill, to be able to hang with these guys. How did you think he did as a main tank?
Now, I'm not going to lie, I got a biased approach because I love John.
That's true.
Right? So there is a hint of bias towards my opinion on this, but I feel like he played reasonably well. I know how hard it is to find decent main tanks in general in Overwatch. It's a hard role to fulfill, especially in this day and age when you got so many bloody things flying at you. You got stuns, you got mines. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's a hard job.
Uppercut,
It really
stunned,
is. It's a very
slapped.
difficult job. I felt like he played very well, given the fact that he's been out of pro play for a year. He's come back into it. I know how much work the guy's put in as well to really get up to this level again. And he has been scrimming, playing non-stop for, I kid you not, 2 months. He's just been screaming Swedish in his bedroom.
That is
so
true.
the guy has really been putting in the work, and although he's probably not going to be happy with the fact that he didn't qualify, I think this last map is really actually a good showing about how well and how he has stepped up and he can play on a high level again on the Reinhardt role.
Yeah, on the Reinhardt role particularly, I think Reinforce did very well. I think his team performed excellently when they were playing around him. I think it's Winston, he ended up taking a lot of early damage in a lot of the fights, but he did have some moments where his mechanics, I think, have massively improved on that hero as well.
Yeah.
Overall, I think Sweden, they will be disappointed with how they performed. I think Reinforce may be disappointed with it overall as well, but they finished on a high.
They really did.
At the end of the day, that's what the World Cup's all about.
They proved that they were the best Scandinavian team in this group, you know?
In this group, Finland is still a lot
That's
better.
why I added in this group, Josh. You know, I wasn't going to say it,
The
mate.
Battle of the Vikings did not have the best Viking team, perhaps, because Finland are already at BlizzCon, and Denmark and Sweden, I mean, Sweden definitely aren't. We'll get to see whether Denmark are at BlizzCon in the next game, which is going to be utterly wild.
Yeah, this one is going to be one for the ages, I'm sure. Coming up next, Australia versus China. It's going to be a good one. I'm sure you're sick of hearing about us. I believe it's going to be Mr. Achilleos and Wolf taking this one away, but we'll see you after the break. After.
The Overwatch World Cup is brought to you by Omen by HP, the official PC of the Overwatch World Cup, and by T-Mobile, America's fastest network ever.
They don't just play for a team. They play for every fan, every rival, every moment, every match. And when everyone watching expects the best, they perform with the best.